hiking in Switzerland, and then we're doing a
That one's fast.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay, we ready to wake Grand up? Okay, welcome. My name's Joan Woodard. I'm the hearing examiner for this evening. The purpose of this hearing is to allow me to receive testimony and evidence on the matters that are pending. I make a recommendation only to the county commissioners. I do not make the final decision. I'll be submitting my recommendation to staff within 2 weeks of this evening's hearing, and then the application will be scheduled for deliberation before the county commissioners. If you wish to give testimony, I need you to fill out one of the sheets on the side over there. And when you come to the podium, please remember to give us your name and address for the record before you begin your testimony. First, staff will introduce the application, then we will hear from the applicant. After the applicant's testimony, we will then get into public comment sheets. We will hear from those who are in favor, those who are neutral, and then those who are opposed. The public not speaking will be read into the record. We will then give the applicant and/or their representative an opportunity for rebuttal of any of the testimony stated into the record from the public before we close the public hearing. After that point, we will receive no more testimony. The time limits are 30 minutes for the applicant's presentation, 3 minutes for public testimony, and 15 minutes for applicant rebuttal. I would ask that you direct all of your testimony to me and not to the audience. Are there any questions regarding this evening's proceedings? Not seeing any, we will commence this evening with case number CUP 250010.
Is my voice carried through okay? Okay. Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner, Planner with Kootenai County, Justice Mac George. For the record, the Worley Fire District is requesting to establish a public safety facility for the purpose of a fire station. I'll start right off the bat that they're also requesting a variance to some fencing standards for the CUP. This is a aerial vicinity map. You can see marked by the star where they're proposing the fire station. Some background, there is a building permit that has already been issued for construction of a pole structure. This is not ordinary for CUP. The applicant can get into the purpose of their desire to build the structure if necessary. However, a CUP is still required, and this vicinity map will show that where it is west of Lake Coeur d'Alene, just northeast of the town of Worley, within the reservation of the Coeur d'Alene tribe, and there are other fire stations in the general vicinity as well. The request, the fire station will include 2 bays supporting a fleet of 3 fire apparatuses. There will be on-site living quarters, up to 4 personnel, which will be an upgrade to the current facilities that the fire stations in the area have currently within Worley Fire District. Another unique aspect to the station is a helipad will be included, which will be able to support life flight services, and in the future, should there be fire hydrants installed, they will also be able to support wildland fire operations. There are exemptions that made it possible to create the parcel without a formal subdivision process, and the fire station is allowed to be also on a parcel below the minimum lot size of 5 acres for the rural zone. And the helipad has been determined by the director to be an ancillary use to a public safety facility per the definition of public safety facility. Taking a look at the site plan, there is the building in red, and toward the center there is a 60-foot exclusive access easement for the benefit of the parcel north on the left. There's a helipad on the northeast corner. You can see a parking area, a loading area in the back, and some landscaped areas. This is the zoning map. Rural, there's also areas zoned agricultural in the surrounding. Aerial view of the property, a pretty plain picture of a flat piece of land. But in the area there's rolling hills, relatively undeveloped, sparse development. Looking at the photos confirmed what was just stated. Public agencies, I think I'll just say none of them expressed concerns. The reservation of the Coeur d'Alene tribe, unfortunately, did not comment. If there are any questions about the agencies, I can expand upon that later. No public comments as well. The staff analysis, we do recommend approval of the request. Some conditions of approval: the applicant shall maintain a minimum of 2 parking spaces, 1 loading area, and 1 of those parking spaces is required to meet ADA standards. Landscaping standards will also be imposed, requiring a total of 17 trees and 51 shrubs. The trees will need to be in specific areas, which is consistent with the site plan and expanded upon in the conditions of approval. And of course, the proposal will have to comply with all agency requirements. Here's the site plan again, and getting further into the variance, B says the proposal is in compliance with the applicable standards or with such variances as may be approved by the board. So one of the performance standards for the CUP is fencing around the perimeter of the site. It's probably worth noting that public safety facilities can be a more broader term encompassing other facilities beyond the fire station. So the question of whether fencing around the facility is necessary, one is what purpose would fencing serve? It is sparse development. There's nothing really around it. It's possible that the land in the area can be developed in the future. However, the applicant has expressed that by not having fencing, they are able to have more efficient ingress and egress from the facility. And other fire stations in the area do not have fencing. It was questionable what purpose it would serve. So staff are supportive of a variance to the standard. And I stand for any questions that you may have.
I don't have any for you right now. Thanks. So we're ready to hear from Scott Campos.
Thank you. Just briefly describe the fire station. We picked this area because the land was donated. It's time, as the community grows, it's time for us to grow as well in the fire district. The fire station we're replacing is located on Highway 95 and 3rd Street in the city of Worley. It was built in 1970 and does not adequately have the infrastructure to house a firefighter. So therefore, all of the response to that community is coming from our headquarters station at 31541 South Highway 95. By building this station, it will allow us to put a firefighter there, which will be 12 minutes closer to the community, which is Bloomsburg Bay, Conklin Park, Helen Park, that area. So the purpose of this fire station is to be more responsive to our community, have another firefighter at another station that can respond to medical and wildland incident structure fires. It's important to note that we are not using taxpayer dollars for this station. All the money that we're using, we've raised. We've rolled up our sleeves, worked hard, fundraisers. We've raised the money for that station. We're one of the only districts that are not in the process of trying to raise taxes or levy override. We're operating under budget and will continue to do so. This station will 100% be funded through two things: the fundraisers that I've already mentioned, and the sale of the station that's located in the city of Worley. Our projection is the money that we have from both of those, the fundraising and the sale of the station, will be more than enough to build the station, house a firefighter, and be ready to respond by this summer. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the structure or the process.
I'm just curious, how many firefighters do you have in your system?
There's 10 paid and 35 volunteers. So currently on duty, there's 4 at our headquarters station. Our staffing model will be 3 at that station and 1 at the new station. So we'll continue the same staffing model, but we're going to put one. As I mentioned, as the community grows, it's really important for us to be aware of that and be more responsive. So we're going to take one of those firefighters and move them to another community so we can get on scene faster and help our community out.
Well, I drove out there yesterday. You had beautiful weather out there compared to socked in fog down here.
It did.
And people drive like maniacs on Rolling Hills? I mean, oh my gosh, I nearly got blown off the road. So I guess they can get to where they need to go pretty fast from out
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And what was it that motivated somebody to donate the property to you? Just, it's curious to me.
He's just a real kind gentleman. Russell Lister is the owner of Hope Ranch Cattle Company. He owns that whole area that you saw. We developed a friendship, and simply he just showed up one day with about 20 boxes of meat that he donated to the firefighters.
Wow.
And we developed a friendship, and then his question was, how can you get to my house faster if I have an emergency as I'm getting older? So, and that's really how it developed. And he said, I'm willing to donate. It started as an acre. It's grown to an acre and a half. But he donated the land and has been very helpful. In addition to donating some excavations, some other things. We've had the community's really coming together. The Bison Ranch did a fundraiser. We've had pickleball tournaments. We've really come together as a community and have total buy-in. And I would have been surprised if anyone had showed up here, any of the residents, to oppose this fire station.
So does he live up that road that's right
Yeah,
beside it?
Rolling Hills Road, when you go past the station, the next set of buildings.
Okay,
Yeah, that's Hope Ranch Cattle Company.
okay. All right, I don't have anything else.
Okay,
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
We have no public comment sheets. Do we have anybody online? No. Okay. Then that concludes our hearing this evening on case number CUP 25-0010. And we'll move on to case number ZON 25-0006.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner. Ben Tarbutton, Kootenai County Community Development, for the record. Before you is a zone change application, ZON 25-0006, for Huetter Properties, which is currently zoned commercial, and they are requesting a light industrial zone classification. The subject property is located kind of in the northwest corner of Huetter Road and I-90. Again, as I mentioned, it's currently zoned commercial. It is presently developed with 3 structures that is, the majority of them are, I think, occupied by different tenants. The comprehensive plan designation does call this area border. This application is kind of in the middle of some changes that the state legislature required of the county, in that it was formerly present in the area of city impact with the city of Post Falls. However, as of the beginning of this year, it is no longer in an area of city impact. It is no longer in an area of impact, is what the legislature required to be called. And so while it is no longer in an area of impact, the city of Post Falls still did have some comments and they didn't have any concerns. They felt that as part of an existing zone change, there was a consent to annex agreement, and I believe that's still in place. So they didn't have any concerns with this application. The subject site is over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer and will still be subject to the regulations of Panhandle Health District until such time, again, they connect to the city infrastructure for sewer. Again, as I mentioned, the site is fully developed. It's asphalted. They have those 3 structures there. It's landscaped according to the commercial design standards, which would be consistent with the light industrial design standards too. So it's pretty compatible as far as that transition goes. The application did go to public agencies for review. The building division did provide some comment. They didn't have any concerns, as again, no improvements are required at this time. However, should they decide to change the use, which would be expected from what it was originally, the buildings what were originally permitted as, that the applicant, the property owner, submit a change of use permit depending on the classification of the use for a new tenant. Post Falls Highway District, again, didn't have any concerns, but they would also review a change of use building permit at the time that took place, and they would have an opportunity to provide their comments then. Panhandle Health District did not have any objections or concerns, neither did Kootenai Fire and Rescue. Again, I mentioned the comments from the City of Post Falls already, and ITD did not have any comments either and approved the case. We did have 3 public comments during the public comment period. 2 of them at the time were in support, 1 was in opposition. However, and I'd like to go ahead and enter this into the record officially, we did get a comment from that, from the member of the public who was directly north of the subject site, who was in opposition, and after further discussion with the property owner, they were no longer opposed and they wanted to withdraw their opposition. So I can go ahead and submit that to you here.
Read into the record is HE 2001.
Thanks.
With regards to staff's analysis, staff in general felt that the allowed uses within the commercial zone could in fact allow a greater intensity of uses with regards to traffic and impact. And so by changing it to industrial, I think they're very similar as far as the amount of uses that they're within the commercial and industrial zones. However, there are some, as pointed out here, that the applicant or the property owner would no longer be eligible for. And so the staff felt that the changes from commercial to industrial would be consistent with what is already developed on site and within the general character of the area. Again, the applicant's primary benefit, to my understanding, is wanting to pursue uses that have some more assembly or assembling of nature, just to allow for greater flexibility from some of the tenants that apparently are interested in this type of facility. But I could let the applicant kind of address that further. Again, staff is supportive of the request, being light industrial zoning, due to minimal impacts from what it is currently to what it could be. So I think that concludes my presentation. I stand for any questions, should you have any.
I don't have any for you. Thanks.
Thanks. You want me to?
Yeah, I can go back to just one of the maps there. Let's go to, yeah, good as any.
Okay, perfect. You go.
Thanks. Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner. Rand Wickman. For the record, my address is 2992 Gotham Bay Road, Harrison, Idaho. I am happy to be here tonight representing Huetter Properties, LLC. And Ben covered most of the important points here. I might just elaborate on a couple things. I think this one, I don't know, maybe this one has been before you before. It got its first zone change to commercial back in 2014, but then in 2019, it came back to eliminate the CZDA, the development agreement. And in the 11 plus years since they had it originally zoned commercial, the applicant has had the opportunity to try out, commercial uses as they are outlined in the zoning code, and found that uses that rely on direct access, or the high visibility and access off of the interstate don't do so well here, because it is what I call the long way around the barn to get here. It is about 4.5 miles if you are eastbound on I-90. You got to go clear to Northwest Boulevard and get off on Southeast, come around. And it's even worse if you are westbound. It's a little over 5 miles to go clear to Highway 41. Good luck with that these days, until that project is done at that interchange. So 41 and then south and around Southeast and back up Huetter. So, that doesn't work for commercial development that, like restaurants and hospitality uses, hotels, motels, those kinds of things that that you get in the commercial zone. And so they had to find, look toward other types of uses, or, retail uses are another example. Just because you can see it doesn't mean you can get to it in this case. And so it really lent itself more toward contractor storage or other light industrial type uses that doesn't have quite as much foot traffic going in and out of there. And Ben went through a little bit of that analysis. I've got some analysis in my narrative as well that talks about the differences between the zones. But again, we think the light industrial uses are less dependent on the drive-in traffic, and therefore it makes better use of that site. Talk a little bit about the surrounding uses. I know you're familiar with the former North Idaho Maritime site over here. To be honest with you, I don't know if there's a use in there now.
There is.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I haven't been by there in a couple of months, and I haven't talked to the owner there, so I assume he got that leased out. But then you've got the residential use on the property immediately to the north. Ben addressed her concerns. I know there's also a sale pending on that, so I don't know how long that is likely to continue to have a residential use there, but she's not opposed in any circumstance. And then you've got, the Huetter project here. The same owner owns all of this, and to the west and well to the north. And so I think we can be certain that we're going to see a lot of changes in these areas in the next 10 years. How soon we'll see any kind of annexation, I think, is up in the air. It is contiguous to the city of Coeur d'Alene along its eastern boundary here, eastern boundary of the project site. It's not contiguous to the city of Post Falls. Ben explained the area of impact situation. But we do have from one of the prior zone changes, we do have a consent to annexation agreement that is recorded against the property with the city of Post Falls. If they ever want to annex it, this owner has on record, consented to that annexation. That's a little ways away as well. Post Falls is down here. They've got some intervening property owners, and then the interstate. The intervening property owners aren't so much the obstacle. Getting infrastructure up there from Post Falls is a little more challenging. And it might, you know, Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls have kind of a gentleman's agreement of where their boundary is going to be, but whether that holds and whether Coeur d'Alene ends up being the one ultimately annexing this someday remains to be seen. But in the meantime, you know, my client's looking to do the best he can with the property as it exists. And, you know, that's limited by the health district's, your health district restrictions being over the aquifer. You know, he gets one dwelling equivalent, or, you know, essentially the equivalent of one residential unit on there in septic loading. And so that gets shared among these three buildings. This is about as intense a use as you're going to see on this site. And so with that, as Ben said, the agencies really didn't have any concerns. And I don't expect a great outpouring of public opposition based on what I see here tonight. And so we would respectfully request your recommendation of approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I don't have any questions. It was a good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody online? Okay, then that concludes our hearing this evening on case number ZON 25-000006. We will move on to case number ZON 25-0005. Is Vlad down for the count too?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, he went home sick this afternoon, so. Again, Ben Tarbutton, Kootenai County Community Development. For the record, tonight, again, is another zone change application before you, ZON 25-0005, an application for RFI LLC. There are two parcels that are under this request. One of them is going from rural to light industrial. The other is going from rural to commercial. The subject site is northwest of the intersection of Highway 53 and Highway 95. The properties were recently divided through a large lot division exemption. And so formally it was one parcel, and then they exercised that division exemption to come up to the alignment of what it is tonight. As you can see, the current zoning is rural. There is agricultural suburban directly to the north. There is light industrial to the northeast, and then kind of peppered with commercial light industrial in the area. As you go further west on Highway 53, there's more commercial. As you go up and down Highway 95, again, there's more light industrial and commercial zone properties. Let's see. The comprehensive plan designation is suburban. The subject site is located over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer, and so any future development will need to comply with the wastewater requirements of Panhandle Health District at the time, again, of development. Here is a site plan of the proposed zoning. Again, the light industrial would be on the northerly side, whereas the commercial would be kind of the southwest. The subject site is undeveloped, and it's kind of a mix of mostly grasses and sparse vegetation, some trees and things, but again, pretty empty as far as development goes. The application did go to the public agencies for comment. Nobody had any comments with opposition. The Idaho Transportation Department did not feel that it was in their jurisdiction, so they said as much. Panhandle Health District, again, had no objection, but would look at the applications upon further development or future development. Northern Lakes Fire Protection District did not have any opposition. Again, they would look at applications for development in the future. Lakes Highway District has no significant impact. Again, they will look at the proposed uses when those come through. The staff, community development staff, will have an opportunity, of course, to look at future development applications. Applications in the commercial zoning may be subject to special notice permit in addition to, should the zone change be approved, in which case we would solicit the application to agencies again so they'd have an opportunity to look at that specific use as being proposed. And then they could further determine what kind of regulations or standards would need to be applied to mitigate any impacts within their jurisdiction. Same for Kootenai County Building Division. When future development applications come in, they would comply with the building code standards. We did have 3 comments in opposition. Most of the comments in opposition focused on the traffic impacts, the water impacts, and noise, as well as decrease in property values. Again, without knowing specifically what the proposed uses will be, we will have an opportunity to look at the applications at that time, and the agencies would be able to look at the traffic concerns. So Lakes Highway District will look at the traffic as how it may impact the surrounding areas, as well as ITD, as we would probably just send it to ITD just to make sure. But they would also be subject to the general zoning classification standards, performance standards, landscaping, parking, all those kinds of things, in order to impact some of the concerns that the public has expressed here. Staff's analysis is that we feel that the area is compatible with the proposal. There are a number of properties that are commercial already and light industrial in the area. So we think this would be a good fit. That doesn't seem to be problematic. We feel that it's in complying with the agency regulations as of now. Nobody had any opposition to the request. And again, this just generally seems to be consistent with the natural progression of the area. With that, we recommend support of the application and be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Not at this time. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have Kenneth. Are you up?
Yeah. Jeremy Terzulli,
Jeremy.
for the record, Madam Hearing Examiner. Did you get my sheet?
Yep.
Okay. Again, for the record, Jeremy Terzulli, land use consultant here in Kootenai County, collaborating with Olson Engineering tonight on behalf of the developer and property owner, who is also here tonight. We have a brief presentation. As always, county staff does a great job, so there's typically not a whole lot to add. My presentation's a little map heavy tonight, so hopefully you like maps. And we'll get started. So the Kootenai County Code does have 11 items, 11 findings when addressing a zone map amendment. I've sort of summarized them here as some of them sort of overlap. And these are my summarized review of the summary of the review criteria for a zone map amendment. And I'll go through the first 5 in these slides and then kind of put a bow on it with the last 2. So regarding the comprehensive plan and the goals and policies there, the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan and it is supported throughout, but I thought that these are some of the goals and policies that really stood out when discussing this project as it relates to private property rights, allowing rural property owners a reasonable economic opportunity with their property, supporting a healthy and robust county economy, promoting those commercial uses along the appropriate transportation corridors, protecting water quality, which may seem a little counterintuitive when you're developing a property, but properties being developed in Kootenai County over the aquifer in this day and age are held to a very high standard with regard to stormwater remediation. DEQ gets a chance to look at all the plans that come forth. Any uses that are going to be deemed intense or perhaps problematic to the aquifer are held under high scrutiny. So development actually does do a good job of protecting our aquifer. Also, coordinating with the area highway districts is definitely implied through those goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. And then within the comprehensive plan is the future land use map. This property has the suburban designation, and it's covered in the staff report that it's sort of a loose term. It understands that you're going to promote economic development opportunities in properties that are designated suburban, and it also points guidance towards areas and trends elsewhere in the county. And so my next few slides are going to show areas of the county where we see this pattern of rural transitioning along these corridors to commercial and light industrial uses. The first one's just a little bit north of this property, up Highway 95. This is actually the interchange at Brine and 95. That's where Silverwood is located. So the commercial use being Silverwood. We've got a little industrial north of that. A very compatible use with the surrounding area. The interchange supports it. Traffic gets to and from Silverwood phenomenally well with that interchange, given how many guests that they see in any given year. So that's just a little bit north of this property. And a bit further north as we approach Athol, the areas that remain in the county and are not annexed into Athol, you can see at that interchange of 54 and 95. Those are commercial uses. This one is a nice representation because the old 95 does go all the way up to Athol, and it sort of acts as a backage road, which is really beneficial for ITD because whenever possible they like to limit direct access onto that highway, and as these backage roads, the highways get improved, the interchanges get improved all the way up and down the corridor, we're going to see these backage roads get the direct access for these commercial light industrial users, and it keeps traffic flowing nicely on 95. Moving west down 54, this is just outside of Spirit Lake. Again, the area not annexed into the city of Spirit Lake. These are recent rezones that were supported by county staff. They've yet to develop in the commercial zoning, but they are do have the appropriate designation when commercial uses are going to be viable at that area. And then one that's a little out of the ordinary, not a highway-on-highway intersection. This is Highway 53 at Hauser Junction. So you got those light industrial uses in there with the commercial, that red sort of on the left side of the screen, that's the Hauser Market. So it shows that it's not just on those highway-on-highway intersections, but high-intensity road classifications out there on the periphery that can provide commercial services to rural residents in this area. This one I especially like because I live about 3 miles from here, and if you happen to forget something at the store, you don't have to go all the way back into town, and I think that's what the comprehensive plan lends itself to supporting some of these little pocket commercial developments to keep the urban areas from being overwhelmed with people to get basic commercial services. So I brought up these slides to sort of paint a picture that this is not unique. This is how these areas tend to develop out. They're supported by the comprehensive plan, and they're supported by responsible development. So now this is kind of the right around that surrounding area. If you move a little bit north of the subject property, that's going to be the left-hand picture here. That's actually due north of the property, and you can even get a little peekaboo view of the property on the bottom left-hand corner of that slide. This is Garwood. The realignment of Garwood on 95, again, pushing the surface traffic down to the interchange at 53 and 95, taking away that direct access of Garwood to the 95 interchange. That's where Lakes Highway District has their new headquarters there. So again, these backage roads of Pope Road, Old 95, as these traffic corridors improve, ITD projects get completed, the backage roads become where the light industrial, where the commercial uses are going to go to serve those residents in that area, keeping traffic off of Highway 95 and just an efficient use of land in this area. And on the right side, that is our subject property that sort of straddles Old 95. Directly to the south, that'll remain rural, but that is ITD owned land, and they use that as a gravel pit. And I have a slide that sort of clarifies that all, because this one's a little confusing. So if approved, this is our vision for how this area should look. And I want to note, because there is some concern out there from the public about cohesive uses. So that area right there is also owned by our client, and he's going to keep that residential, and he'd like to subdivide that. That is a pending application for a residential subdivision to sort of blend this whole area with these 5-acre residential. So I just think that it's worth noting that our client has a vested interest in making sure that end users of the commercial and light industrial are cohesive in the area. And this all up here, this whole corridor going up to Garwood, has developed that way over the last 10 to 15 years, 20 years. You've got multiple locally owned businesses that operate up there. They blend more or less seamlessly with the adjacent residential uses. You've got Kuma Stoves, I think Little Stinker's yard is up there. There's a fabrication shop. That's the type of user that we would like to kind of carry through this whole area. And again, pointing out that our client does have a vested interest in the entire project as a whole. Regarding infrastructure, we've got power and data all around that area. Natural gas is a short distance to the south. If we decide we want to work with Avista to try to pull natural gas to the site, that shouldn't be a very heavy lift. We've got water is going to be available through private wells, and we're also in direct communication with Gem State Water District. We are right on the edge of their boundary. I do know that they're under a moratorium right now. However, if we can come up with a mutually beneficial agreement, we'd certainly work with them to annex into their district to improve their district throughout. But at the same time, if that's infeasible, we do have good water in the area, and we can provide the wells needed to serve future home sites of the residential stuff. Again, that's a future application, but the industrial and commercial uses, we understand. We've got a good team that knows how to work with the fire districts to provide those fire retention ponds if needed. And again, those can be temporary if we can work with Gem State to improve their fire flow system-wide. So infrastructure is available in the area, as well as the soils in the area. Very well-draining soils, so septics aren't going to be a problem. And again, as Ben pointed out, communication with Panhandle Health District and working with them to make sure that we comply with their requirements and regulations is going to be critical as we move forward. So regard to delivery of services, that sort of dovetails into the traffic impacts. Lakes Highway District indicated that they had no concerns. Of course, they're going to review at time of development. We're going to work with them on access off of Old 95, how that should lay out, and depending on users, what will the impact be. But at this time, they didn't seem to have any concerns with the zone change, and we'll work with them with future development if we get to that point. Again, the access road and the improvements to be coordinated with the district. The Highway 95 and 53 interchange was recently upgraded, so it can handle any potential traffic flow from this development and move that traffic efficiently. And the agency comments, we did not receive any comments that gave anybody, including staff, any concerns. So those few slides kind of cover those first 5 bullet points there that are my summary of the findings of fact. I don't have a direct slide for the detrimental impacts to public health and safety. That is a necessary finding, but again, we rest on staff, we rest on the agencies to comment, and a common sense approach to does this fit the area, and there were no indications from any agencies or staff that this would have any detrimental impact to residents in the area or the public in general. And another review criteria is going to be that impact to the property owner if denied. And what I can say, and I'm sure you've heard before, but it's about highest and best use of a property. That's how we in the development community look at a property. We've analyzed this extensively. Those exempt segregations were done strategically to make sure that we left the rural up against the existing residences, pulled that light industrial to sort of line up what you see north on Old Highway 95 and the industrial there, the commercial a little closer to Highway 53 for that greater visibility, kind of like what Rand had pointed out earlier. Fortunate for us, we would have visibility and access off of Highway 53, so it wasn't done haphazardly, and we believe that that is the highest and best use of the property. So in summary, we believe that the proposal aligns with the county's guiding documents. We believe that the zone change request is consistent with the area's context. County staff agreed with us. They supported the request. And we respectfully approve a recommendation, or I'm sorry, that was a Freudian slip. We respectfully request a recommendation of approval, and I'll stand for any questions.
The only one I have is just a curiosity question. I was up there today, and it looks like you've done a lot of recent staking. What are you working on?
So that's going to be the large lot splits. So it was a larger parcel, and through the county code, you're allowed to do those as long as they don't go below 20 acres. And if you go back and look at the way it is, there's some curves and stuff out there, so it wasn't just as simple as nailing down. There's a little complexity to the boundary lines, and as well, see that old alignment right here?
Yeah.
So there was a kind of a point of contention as to where ownership ended on that. You've got these curves that you have to do. So in order to create, this is actually one parcel that straddles here. This is another parcel, and that's another parcel. So the staking has a lot to do with getting those boundaries right.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you so much.
Did we have anyone online? All right. Then that concludes our hearing tonight on case number ZON 25-0005. And we will jump across Old Highway 95 and open our hearing on case number CUP 25-0011.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner. Blake Zetter, planner with Kootenai County Community Development, here to present a conditional use permit for a public utility complex facility, mouthful, for the salt brine facility for Lakes Highway District. The proposal takes place at a piece of property west adjacent to the intersection of Highway 95 and Highway 53, north of Coeur d'Alene. As you can see in the aerial imagery of the property, it is undeveloped and quite well vegetated and screened from the road. As shown in these images, it is gradually sloping down from the road here and flattens out where the property is going to be developed should this proposal be approved. The subject property is zoned rural. It is surrounded by a number of parcels also zoned rural, in addition to a couple agricultural here to the south and southwest, as well as mining. This area directly to the south here is also owned by Lakes Highway District, and I believe is used for a surface mine. This is also mining over here, and then as shown in the last presentation, this appears to be a gravel pit area. So The proposal for a public utility service complex appears to be generally in line with the character of the area. Some general information for the project proposal. The conditional use permit is to allow Lakes Highway District to produce salt brine and store it on site. It'll include a storage building, brine facility building, brine maker well, and other associated improvements needed for that operation. The facility will be unmanned, but will include a restroom for any personnel during winter months. There has been a slight amendment to this proposal, very minor, essentially just consolidating the uses into a smaller area. Essentially, I think they had two structures originally proposed, now they've done one, and just all under one structure. As far as the containers go for the salt brine, their proposal is 3 9,000-gallon containers inside of a concrete spill basin. All of this is to be located approximately 100 feet from the northern parcel line, so south of the road, and then 175 feet for Highway 53. And then the existing landscaping should be sufficient enough to sufficiently screen it visually from the road. In anticipation that the Board of County Commissioners will require an additional layer, additional protective layer, as they've expressed in past projects, the applicant has proposed in their original proposal industrial grade plastic tanks, along with a concrete spill basin that the tanks will sit in, so should anything spill out or not be contained, it would be caught in that secondary containment, the concrete basin. In anticipation, the board is going to need a third protective layer. The applicant has provided a solution that they currently use at their other salt brine facility off North Pope Road, which is a concrete sealant inside the concrete basin. This appears to be in line with Panhandle Health Critical Materials Best Management Practices packet. In addition, after speaking with Panhandle Health Critical Materials, they didn't express any specific concerns. They were just curious about what kind of sealant would be specifically used, as the salt brine, I believe, has a high pH. And so they just had some additional questions, but we're on board. Should the concrete sealant not be supported, PhD did recommend a membrane layer in lieu of that protection measure. So as I stated before, there's been a slight modification to the proposal. I would like to enter into record the revised site plan. The original proposal is up top. As you'll see, the limits of disturbance are outlined or abutting the green. It is now consolidated with less disturbance and less visual impact than before. Staff supports this minor modification.
Read into the record is HE 4001.
During the public agency comment, all agencies approved with no concerns. And staff received 0 public comments regarding this proposal. In conclusion, staff believes the applicant has met the required findings for a conditional use permit and supports the applicant's request, of course, with conditions as recommended. And I stand for any questions.
I don't have any for you right now, thanks.
Okay.
Did you guys want to, did you fill out sheets? Just, yeah, before you leave, if you bring them to me, that would be great.
Good evening. I'm Richard Colburn from HOA Architects. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And I'm going to keep this very simple. I think Blake did an excellent job of presenting it, so I don't know that I have any more information to provide to you regarding the presentation. We've reviewed the report and the analysis, and we agree with the recommendations of staff. And I'm here more to answer questions than present anything additional or further.
Well, I do have a few questions. So how, a truck comes in and they're going to fill their tank with this brine solution. How does that happen? Can you describe for me, you've got those 3 tanks. I assume there's like a hose.
Yeah, the tanks, they mix the salt in the tank with water. And then they're great big tall tanks, and they have a hose and pump system. They hook up to the truck, and they attach it, and they just pump the water in there. And while it takes a while, that's why they have the little lunchroom and restroom in there for the guys to sit and wait for the water to fill up.
Well, what was kind of curious to me, with an emphasis on being concerned with the tanks and having the containment, so this hose going to a truck, what's to keep brine from spilling onto the ground under the truck or on it from the hose? It just seemed like there was an imbalance to me with where we're protecting.
Eric may be able to clarify this a little bit more operationally, but to my knowledge, the pumps, they are, I think, they're alarmed. So if there's a leak or it pops off or something, then they're notified. And then the people there, make sure things are operating correctly and it's, not leaking before they ever walk off or do anything. So to my knowledge, they don't have any trouble with that. They have the tanks, same tank system, a pump system at their facility right now. And they have operational guidelines and safety measures that they work with every day when they're using it.
Well, presumably, I mean, this is going on roads and highways, and so we're not worried about it in that regard, right? It just seemed like we're very worried about these 3 tanks.
So staff has no concern about the tanks. This was more in anticipation of the board. In past projects like the above-ground storage facility for diesel products,
Yeah.
they expressed a lot of concern about any sort of spills that may happen. So just in anticipation of that, staff wanted to get out in front of it and just have options available should they require it again and not delay the applicant in any sort of manner.
Okay, just curious.
Eric says he could clarify that if you'd
Okay,
like. He's
sure.
the director
Yeah.
there.
I'm happy to finally meet you. I have seen your name on so many documents since I have been doing this job.
I'm fairly popular.
Some of them I wasn't very happy about, but others, yes.
With all due respect. Eric Shanley of Lakes Highway District, for the record, 17783 North Pope Road. A couple of clarifications. There is a real imbalance here. And for the record, I submitted the Panhandle Health District guidelines for critical material storage.
Yeah.
And I think that we're getting lost in the critical materials box, let's say. And there's 3 categories inside that box. There's category 1, 2, and 3. Category 1's your arsenics and your cyanides. And you have things like acetone in your category 2s, and then road salts are in category 3, and they're referred to in the Panhandle Health District guidelines as the least hazardous. All of those, by the way, require only secondary containment by the Panhandle District's very own policy. And to that regard, the BMP for road maintenance facilities specifically calls out road salt as a lower hazard material and can simply be, secondary containment can be simply a membrane laying on the ground. And so what we're proposing is a concrete basin, which by Panhandle Health District's guidelines is an improvement from the membrane on the ground. But the comments that were made by Panhandle Health District, they then want a membrane and a concrete tank. So it's well above and beyond what their own policy even permits. So, but when it comes to your point, and I think that's a valid point, the men that are filling those trucks with salt brine, de-icer material, they're supposed to man those vehicles when they're filled. And when they move the hose from the container basin to the truck, they are supposed to have a 5-gallon bucket. So any debris, if that hose is set down, it's drained into the 5-gallon bucket, it's hooked up, and then they stand there and they monitor it while it's filling. So that tends to reduce the amount of any material that's potentially spilled. And that's probably the highest probability point where something could really be spilled on the ground at that point. And then there's our secondary containment is basically a spill bucket. So that's how that in practice works.
Okay.
ITD does it that way, the city of Coeur d'Alene. And as far as secondary containment, each of those agencies use similar things. This is a simple concrete basin for salt, which is not diesel. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. I have another question,
Sure.
And this is just my own curiosity. So Coeur d'Alene touted beet brine, right? That they use some sort of a beet product.
They don't. They actually,
No?
they used to.
Okay.
And it was referred to me as snake oil.
Oh.
And that's why we didn't start to use it, but it's basically a sugar and it didn't function the way it was supposed to. They actually use a material that's called AMP. And it goes in at a very small amount per gallon. And it does prove to show some sort of results towards being an anti-corrosive product that can be added to help treat the roads in the winter.
Because they do a great job. I live downtown and they're out there de-icing things and it really works.
Well, and we didn't design and, come up with this particular project on our own. We look to our sister agencies. ITD has these facilities. They operate in the city of Coeur d'Alene, has one very similar to this. And they're very well operated and efficient facilities. And as you mentioned, they do a great job of it.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'll just note that I was appreciative that there was no comments and that of importance to this, it's going to save about $200,000 a year to the taxpayer by
Always
going from
good.
using chloride to salt brine. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Do we have anybody? No? Then that concludes our hearing on case number CUP 25-0011 and our evening. Thank you very much for everyone's patience and participation.